Why is my... Sorry, guys. I don't know why it looks worse than normal. But here I am. I'm back. That was abysmal. I planned to do a video a month last year, and it came out to like 3 and 12 months. So, oops. I guess the reason that happened, really, was a person... Oh my god, I'm getting random pop-ups. This is professional. Go away. I know there's a thing plugged in. Okay, so a friend of mine, or a person I considered a good friend of mine, had the idea of me starting a YouTube channel, and she was sort of my critic, and I would send her my videos. She was the first one to see them. She stopped talking to me a year ago, and I'm not going to get into why, but she did stop talking to me, and I had a very emotional connection, is that the right word, with these videos? And it would almost make me think of her, and it was very emotional, and it was hard for me to motivate myself to do them. But I've decided if I wish to keep doing them, I need to just grin and bear it, because the only way I'm going to get over that is by doing them and seeing that everything's fine when I do them, right? Seeing, that's basis for a lot of therapy, actually. Is doing something and seeing that nothing happens. So here I am. So this video is going to be about chronic fatigue syndrome, which is my newest diagnosis. At the end, I will go over all my current diagnoses, because I can barely keep track. I'm sure you guys can't. So chronic fatigue syndrome, as the name explains, the main symptom is constant tiredness. It doesn't matter how much you sleep, very little exertion, and you're absolutely exhausted. And I was diagnosed by an internist in the fall. And I'm going to go back to the beginning now, and then we'll get to my diagnosis. So there's always been issues around sleep. When I was an infant, my mom would have to tell you more. But I used to just sleep and sleep and sleep, and she actually had to wake me up to feed me. Eventually, I did grow out of that. I don't remember much about my sleep before the age of 10. You'd have to ask my mom. I know I was put on Ritalin when I was 6. I don't really recall if that made me drowsy or not. I know it suppressed my appetite. I was very skinny. I don't know if it was making me drowsy. What I remember clearly, though, this light is going right off my glasses, eh? What I remember clearly, though, was when I was 10 and I was put on an antidepressant. Then I remember experiencing a lot more daytime fatigue. No, I don't want to say fatigue even. It wasn't that bad. Just drowsiness. It wasn't annoying. It wasn't debilitating. I went to high school and college, full time. Some of those days I had to be at class very early in the morning. I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but I did it. I worked at summer camps when I wasn't in between semesters when I was still in school. I did a co-op placement in high school. That was a lot of hours. I had to do practical placements in college that were a lot of hours. My first jobs out of college sometimes required, I have other videos. My employment history is kind of complicated. So all I'm going to really say is even some of my first jobs out of college, I worked 40-hour weeks and I was fine. The only challenge I had up until my mid-20s, I would say, other than being drowsy in the daytime, very, very hard time getting out of bed in the morning. Almost like I was fighting sedation trying to get out of bed. And I guarantee if other people hadn't been in the house getting ready for work or school, I would have been later missed many, many days in high school and college and those various jobs and things. But I did it. The first time it was affecting my work performance was, I guess I was 25, 26. I was with nursery support services, where I call myself a daycare supply teacher. I believe Americans say substitute teacher. But I would go to different daycares around the city, and I would cover people if they were on vacation or away sick. And they gave me an assignment. This was February. I remember being very cold out. It was going to be 3 weeks of 40-hour days. I was covering a vacation, and the daycare had actually requested me. I'd been there a lot, and they liked me. But it had been, when I think about it now, it had been at least 6 months since I'd actually worked a 40-hour week. Because with that job, you often either didn't work every day in the week, or you would have shorter days. Like you'd be going just before school or just after school, and you'd have the rest of the day off. So when I actually got this 3 week, 40 hours a week, so 8-hour days, all day for 3 weeks. I'm not speaking clearly. When I got that assignment, I didn't end up. God, no, that. Oh, sorry guys. I didn't end up finishing it. I was finding myself too tired, and when I'm tired, when my stamina is down, my anxiety's up, my sensory issues are up. I can't do my job as well, so I had to tell them, I can't work this many hours. You need to give this to somebody else. And I went back to my regular gig, and that was fine. Fast forward, again, my work history is complicated, so we're going to jump now into 2016. This was the next time I noticed a problem arising related to fatigue, and this is when I would ultimately be diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I was hired by a daycare. It was 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, so 15 hours a week. And it was physical. I was on my feet the whole time, but I'd had jobs like that before. I didn't think this was going to be an issue. I was basically, we would dish out the food and set the tables for lunch, and then get the rooms ready for nap time while the kids were eating, and then we'd wash the dishes. I was exhausted after a few days. I could barely get out of bed, like worse than normal. And I could just I felt different. Something had changed. And I knew something was really wrong when the day the kids were on a field trip and they asked me to clean some stuff. So I literally had a spray bottle and a rag or a cloth, nothing heavy or strenuous. I was going around wiping things, and I ended up with a sore shoulder. And immediately, I'm like, I have fibromyalgia. My mom had been diagnosed previously, and what I was experiencing was what she was describing. So I saw my family doctor. It took me a number of months to see a specialist, but I did eventually get that diagnosis. And from that point, I stuck with volunteer things. I was volunteering at a cat rescue, which would be like, it was 3 hours a day, 2 days a week. And there were advantages to that over paid work because A, it's a little bit more flexible. If you need to miss, you can get away with missing days more than with a paid job. And then also, if I needed to rest, the cats aren't going to squeal on me. It's me in a room full of cats. So if I need to sit down and do nothing for a few minutes, that's not an issue. The cats are not, it's not like a room full of toddlers where you have to constantly supervise. The cats can run around for a couple minutes. So that was fine. In, I guess it was July, August, last summer anyway, 2019, was when I had my next big change. And I couldn't even keep up with the cat job anymore. I couldn't finish my tasks. My task would basically wipe the cages, scoop the litter, or clean the bowls. Or fill the bowls, I should say, the food bowls. Wash and fill. And I used to get there, do all my tasks at the beginning, and then play with cats for most of my shift. It got to the point where even in the 3-hour shift, I could not finish my tasks. And it was not 3 hours worth of work. I had to keep sitting down and taking breaks. And walking to the bus stop was impossible. By the time I commuted over there, the strenuous activity of sitting on a bus, I would get there and be tired already. So I knew it wasn't working. I knew something had changed. And the other change I noticed, if I were to do something big, like say go downtown, I would be exhausted for 2-3 days after, just totally out of commission. Not just a little sleepy, not functioning. So I know those two, I knew something had changed again. So I spoke to my family doctor, and she said fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue often go hand in hand. From what I've read, 70% of people who have one will eventually be diagnosed with the other. And the basic difference is fibromyalgia, the main symptom is pain with some fatigue issues. Chronic fatigue, the main symptom is debilitating fatigue. And you might have to be a little bit achy. And if you have both things, like I now do, which apparently is quite common, you get the muscle pain and the exhaustion. So I go for a 20-minute walk around the block, on a good day 20 minutes, and I'm in pain in 5 different places. Right? But I'm also can really get off the couch after going out the day before. So I qualify for both now. She sent me, so what my family doctor did was send me to an internist. And an internist is sort of, I call it a catch-all specialist. If you have a condition that your family doctor can't deal with, but it doesn't fall neatly into one system or organ or body part, then that's where the internist takes over, as opposed to a specialist for a very specific, lung or heart or whatever. So he feels it's probably chronic fatigue syndrome. Everyone seems to be in the same boat. And he has 3 suggestions as well. So I did a sleep study. I had done one before, and it didn't come up with much. That was years ago, though. They figured it was probably medication induced at that point. Um, this sleep study did come back with mild sleep apnea. Probably because I'm overweight. Probably would go away if I lost weight. And he said not enough to be causing the fatigue I'm experiencing. That's what the sleep doctor said. The second thing the internist suggested was something called RTMS, which I forgot to Google before I started this video. But it's a new procedure using magnets that's like a wand they wave around your head, I guess you could say. And it's meant for mood and anxiety disorders, which I have in spades. I have those issues in spades. And so I was referred to a clinic at Toronto Western Hospital for RTMS. Unfortunately, I got a phone call that the doctor who does it is seriously ill and they're not making appointments right now. So eventually I'm going to have to find out if I need a new referral, or this hasn't happened to me before in all my dealings with doctors. So I'll have to find out how that works. But it is a very new, very specialized thing, and I don't think many places or people are doing it, so I guess that's kind of on hold right now. And the third thing he said, and this really got me by surprise, he suggested I see an endocrinologist to look at my mitochondrial function. I always thought of endocrinologists as endocrine, hormones. I didn't even know that was something they could do. And also, I thought of mitochondrial diseases as very serious things that kill babies. So just to clarify, the mitochondria is what's called an organelle. Your cells have small little organs inside them that do different things, and the mitochondria produces energy. So if I have a mitochondrial problem, I could have low energy, and I Googled it actually, and a bunch of stuff came up that matches me. Autism, exercise intolerance, which I know sounds like a flimsy excuse, but it's actually a real thing. I don't remember offhand what else. I should have made notes. But yeah, stuff came up, and it does seem to fit me, so I was interested in seeing him and finding out about this. Unfortunately, I don't even have an appointment date yet, and it's been 4 months. And that's not normal. I should probably go in and talk to them because nothing else is working. It's normal to wait many months to see a specialist, but usually they give you the appointment date pretty quickly, even if the appointment's 9 months away. They haven't even given me a date yet, so I have to track these people down, I guess. I hesitate to sometimes say these things because I don't want to turn people off of universal health care, socialized medicine. Wouldn't want to live without it, but it's far from perfect. Canada is not a socialist utopia. Make that clear. So I'm waiting on the well, I have to track them down, like I said. Waiting isn't working. So that's an overview, I guess, of my fatigue issues and where I'm at now. It's gotten to the point where it's disabling. I woke up at 11 this morning and I was taking a nap by 2, just for some perspective. So I'm currently not working or volunteering at all. But my moods have been really good. I'm getting better at, I would say, managing my anxiety. I wouldn't say it's gone. I just manage it better. And to me, mood and anxiety are the hardest things I've had to deal with of all the things. So I can take some fatigue over a horrible suicidal mood. So, I guess I'll live. I'll cope with this like I have everything else. I hope it does ease off. I hope I can, I'd like to go back to work. My goal would be to work part-time. I think it's unrealistic to sit here and say I'll have a full-time job one day. That'd be great. Never say never. But a more realistic goal would be eventually to be able to work part-time. So hopefully I can figure that out. Um, the main thing I can do, from what I can tell, is exercise. And the thing is, people with chronic fatigue have something called exercise intolerance, where we actually feel worse if we go do a whole bunch of exercise. It has to be built up very slowly. So right now I'm trying to do literally a few minutes of walking and a few minutes of stretching. So maybe less than 10 minutes a day at the most is what I'm trying to do right now, and I plan to increase that. We'll see where I end up. Yeah. So, excuse me. So I just want to let you know, or update you, I should say, on what my diagnoses are now. So Asperger's, of course, and then borderline personality disorder and OCD. I'm going to talk about my OCD in another video. Previously, I've been diagnosed with major depression, generalized anxiety, ADHD. I'm not convinced any of those are valid. I'm convinced my mental disorders are BPD, OCD, ASD. And then, of course, I have fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. I suffer from migraines. My whole digestive system's a mess. I have reflux. I have IBS, lactose intolerance. I have overactive bladder. To add that to the list. And yeah, I guess those are the big things. I mean, I have a weirdly shaped knees. I have a bit of an eye problem. So I guess if you can keep track, that's where we are now with the diagnosis list. Hence the "and more" in my channel title. But I've dealt with everything life has thrown at me so far, and I'll deal with this too. So sorry for the huge gap in videos. I am going to try my best to go back to one a month, and I hope to see you in February.